Introduction. At the time I'm writing this book, the USA is scrambling to manage the effects of a global pandemic while coming off the heels of weeks-long protest against police brutality. Following the recorded murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, our nation erupted at its seams with protesters on the streets of every major city nationwide demanding immediate attention. Meanwhile, on social media, millions of users got a crash course in racial inequality via hundreds of informational posts, shared links, and activists speaking out. In early June, social media platform Instagram was wiped out in solidarity by users who uploaded a plain black square to their account. People are consciously deciding to redirect their daily spending toward Black-owned businesses, signing petitions in pursuit of justice, and attempting to educate their families and friends about the realities of systemic racism. To those of us who have not only been aware of these realities, but have lived since birth experiencing them firsthand, it's a curious thing to watch. Why now? Why does the world suddenly want to tell the truth? Perhaps the coast-to-coast stay-at-home orders contributed by sending millions in boredom to the internet, where we all in unison watch the traumatic footage of George Floyd's death by suffocation. Or maybe it was the unity we all felt at the time, as we, for the first time in decades, were forced to slow life down and experience a universal fear of sickness and death. Whatever the cause, the ratio of emotion to attention must have been just right this early summer, as everyone seemed to snap out of their stupor all at once. This is not the land of the free until all are equal. I know this well, but it still feels nice to hear everyone else say it out loud. According to the NAACP, 22% of fatal police shootings are perpetrated against Black people, despite the fact that we make up only 13% of the total U.S. population. There are little-known statistics to represent the number of non-fatal shootings and instances of excessive force that are perpetrated against Black people versus non-Black people. Likewise, 34% of the nation's incarcerated population is Black. That's to say nothing about the victims of systemic racism who find themselves once again released into the free world. Reacclimating to life outside prison is a feat so difficult that most are unable to accomplish it. It's no wonder, considering the fact that having any criminal record reduces the likelihood of receiving a job offer by 50%. This so-called democracy by the people and for the people seems to be hell-bent on keeping its Black citizens strapped tight between a rock and a hard place. As these statistics continue to get worse year after year, the damaging stereotypes persist, and the cycle perpetuates. At this point, I don't think there can be any doubt that the American government is objectively and overwhelmingly guilty of using its legislative and penal systems to subjugate a population that has not found respite from prejudice or discrimination since the nation was established in 1776. I am heartened to feel the shift in our cultural climate as the topic of racism and racial profiling in law enforcement rises to the surface of our country's consciousness. African American citizens are speaking out in confidence to demand change, while those who aren't privy to our experience take the time to educate themselves on the many iterations of systemic racism that have plagued America for centuries. I watch and listen as protesters discuss cutting police force budgets, implementing prison reform policies, and punishing offending officers to the fullest extent of the law. Though I am skeptical, I cannot help but allow hope to infiltrate my heart. I hope we'll see real change. I hope these policies will offer protection and safety to the millions of Black American citizens who don't presently have it. Yet all the while, as I watch my nation simmer and boil with righteous indignation, I can't help but notice a huge gap in the public narrative. I am overjoyed that such important and heavy issues are being addressed by the mainstream media. But I'm also discouraged by the public's lack of awareness about the people in that gap. I am in that gap. While America protests against mass incarceration and excessive police force, it fails to recognize that there are survivors of racial profiling who neither die nor serve a long prison sentence. It fails to recognize people like me who are technically living in the free world while simultaneously wading through mountains of pitiless red tape just to clear our names. It fails to recognize that while convicting murderers is surely a worthwhile cause, there are plenty of victims who remain alive and need help just as badly as those who are not. It fails to recognize how effortlessly a law enforcement officer's single callous behavior can leave a person mired in a land void of opportunity, destitute and desperate for relief. It fails to recognize how a tainted criminal record could debilitate a person for the rest of their lives, even if they aren't lying 6 feet under or sitting behind bars. I'm one of the people waiting here, in the gap, to have my name cleared and my life restored. Believe it or not, there was a time when I truly believed that American law was fair, that our justice system stayed true to its name, and that opportunity remained available to all who rightfully earned it. It's not true, and I found out the hard way. So at a time when people finally seem to be listening, I've decided to tell my story. I came to this decision for several reasons, the first of which is that my story has no ending, at least not yet. I am still in the thick of it. In my case, justice has not been served. Despite my doctoral degree in history and my stacked resume, I cannot find reliable employment in my chosen field. Because of racial profiling, my home went into foreclosure. I lost or was not even granted the opportunity to hold many jobs. And I managed daily the side effects of spending over 5 years on strong antidepressants. I'm telling my story because I need help. I'm also telling my story because I can help. In circumstances that I would never have chosen myself, I have learned invaluable lessons about how to become a self-advocate amidst a profoundly broken and twisted system. When the world put me in a corner between 2 stone walls, I somehow found a way to open a door, and then another, and then another. I've never taken the bar exam, but I now know enough about the law to defend myself in front of a state judge. I know what makes a good lawyer, how to identify a person's good or bad intentions, and exactly what my constitutional rights are, down to the letter. Most importantly, I'm telling my story to offer hope, faith, and love to all who want and need it. The psychological effects of this battle I'm fighting against a far more powerful opponent cannot be overstated. I firmly believe that, without my belief in God and my confidence in God's heart for justice, I would not be alive today. When I saw no way out of misery, God lifted me to a bird's eye view. I saw that, while my life on earth has been painful, and at times unbearable, it isn't the only life I have. There's another one after this. So in my own time of need, God called me to serve others. Because of the Lord, I have faith that justice will be served. My name will be cleared. Dear listener, this one's for all the people in the gap. This one's for the people who can't apply to a job without holding their breath. This one's for the people who are on the professional blacklist. This one's for the people who are waiting to wait so that they can wait in line some more. This one's for the people who have watched their lives implode while they anticipate a too long postponed day in court. This one's for the people who never had their day in court at all. This story is for the 20-something black kid who would rather take an undeserved penalty than play David against Goliath in a losing fight. This story is for the 20-something black kid who never should have been stopped in the first place. This story is for those of us who had the guts to stay the course and are paying the price all over again at the start of each day. We're the invisible middle, living in apartments and homes, waking up to our dogs and a pot of fresh coffee, heading to work at a job for which we're overqualified and underpaid. We're the ones who look free on the outside, yet are waiting indefinitely in the purgatory of a stuffy, beige, and endless bureaucratic maze. We've seen the faces behind the headstones. We've seen the faces behind the bars. But what about us? We're the faces behind these systems, those sinned against and left for dead.